ABC 10 News at 5 starts right now.
The UC and Cal State systems say they plan to require all students, staff, and faculty on campus to be fully vaccinated against COVID-19. How soon that requirement will take effect.
Plus, San Diego's Grand Central Station is starting to move forward. How much it will cost you, the taxpayer.
And for the second day in a row, we're seeing cool, cloudy, and drizzly conditions. How long it will last and the changes ahead.
ABC 10 News at 5 starts now.
It hurts. I mean, because you know that it was a close family friend.
Grief and shock after two teenagers were killed in a truck crash near SeaWorld by Mission Bay last night. Good evening, I'm Lindsay Pena.
And I'm Steve Atkinson. The driver and the passenger died when they slammed into a pole. Nearly 24 hours after the crash, there is a growing memorial for the victims. This is a live look right now. There are candles, there are flowers, even that small crowd has gathered. Our ABC 10 News reporter Michael Chin reveals why the driver's friends say the details of the accident are so surprising.
Along SeaWorld Drive, a crumpled truck marking the end of a deadly ride. Around 9:30 Wednesday night, police say a 19-year-old man was driving a Ford F-150 truck with a 19-year-old woman in the passenger seat at a high rate of speed when he lost control of the vehicle, striking a light pole and then a street light. Fire crews used the jaws of life, but both teens died at the scene.
It just doesn't feel real. Like, I feel like I'm going to wake up from a dream.
Riley Burke was friends with the driver. She says he was a recent graduate of Montecito High in Ramona.
Very sarcastic and joking with everything. He was just always there if you needed him. Like, if you were having a bad day, you could call him and he'd be there.
Daryl Smith says he had hired the teen, a family friend, for work around the house.
I'd have him come over and do landscaping at my house, working on my yard. He wanted to build his own business. That's what he was working towards. The sad part is I don't know how to break it to my son. My son, idolized him. And he was also teaching my autistic son how to ride a dirt bike.
Both Smith and Burke call the details of the crash surprising.
He was always really careful.
Because he was known as a safe driver.
I've let him use my personal truck, my personal trailer. He's always been a real slow, cautious, driver.
Police say the investigation is just beginning into the cause of the crash that claimed 2 young lives. Michael Chen, ABC 10 News.
The identities of the victims have yet to be released.
Now to the latest on the coronavirus. 2 of the nation's largest university systems say they will require all students and staff returning on campus to be fully vaccinated against COVID-19. The CSU and UC systems made that joint announcement this afternoon. ABC 10 News reporter Rena Nakano is joining us. And Rena, it could be a while until that requirement takes effect.
Yeah, that's right, Lindsay. It won't be until fall or when the FDA gives full approval of the vaccines, whichever comes later. Now, this new rule says all faculty, staff, and students who attend UC's and CSU campus facilities must get the COVID-19 vaccine. There is a condition, though. This will be a requirement only once the FDA grants full approval of 1 or more vaccines and if there is adequate availability. Now, right now, the available vaccines only have the FDA's emergency use authorization. CSUs and UC schools already require measles, mumps, rubella, chickenpox, Tdap, meningitis, TB, and hepatitis B vaccines. So this would be in addition to that. Now, we spoke to some SDSU sophomores who welcome the new rule.
I think most students would be okay with taking the vaccine.
Yeah, people just really want to come back to school and learn. So they're like, okay, take the vaccine, we come back, awesome.
Now, there is an exception to the rule, however. Students, faculty, and staff can opt out of the COVID-19 vaccine requirement on religious or medical grounds. Live at SDSU tonight, I'm Rena Nakano, ABC 10 News.
Some rising concerns now that everyone 16 and older is eligible for the COVID vaccine. This vaccination center in Fresno was expecting a big rush when the eligibility expanded, but it never materialized. Some places around the country are starting to see supply outpace demand. Nationally, hospitalizations are at a 7-week high, with cases still rising in 12 states. Attention is turning to those reluctant to get the shot. Dr. Andy Harris is a Republican congressman who is doing his part by administering shots himself.
Republicans are more skeptical of government. And when the government comes out and says, we think you ought to take the vaccine, some people's natural reaction is, let me think about that. They hesitate a little bit.
The U.S. has given out 200 million shots. Nearly half of all American adults have had at least one dose. In a rare moment of bipartisan unity, the Senate passed a bill today aimed at combating anti-Asian hate crimes. That legislation, which needed 60 votes to pass, was approved by a 94-1 vote. Only GOP Senator Josh Hawley of Missouri voted no. The bill will establish a new role in the Justice Department to review anti-Asian hate crimes. Its passage follows the shooting of 8 people, including 6 Asian women at several spas in the Atlanta area last month.
The important thing for our AAPI community is that we stand with you, and we will continue to stand with you to prevent these kinds of crimes from happening in our country.
The bill now heads to the House, where it's expected to gain approval.
One of the alternate jurors from the Derek Chauvin trial is sharing her insight from the trial. This is Lisa Christensen. She sat with the jury every day, although she did not deliberate with them. She says she thought Chauvin was guilty, but was surprised the jury found him guilty on all 3 counts. She also says being a juror was emotional, especially seeing video of George Floyd's death.
It was overwhelming, and then to see it day after day, over and over again. It never got any easier.
Christensen says for her, the key witness was Dr. Martin Tobin, who testified about exactly how Floyd died. She says he explained in a way that she could easily understand exactly what was happening as she watched the video. Hundreds of mourners gathered today to say goodbye to Daunte Wright. He's the 20-year-old black man who was shot and killed during a traffic stop by a veteran Minnesota police officer who says that she meant to tase Wright, but accidentally fired her gun instead. As ABC's Aaron Katersky shows us, it was an emotional day for his loved ones.
Oh, freedom.
In a week that brought one measure of justice in Minneapolis, the city is mourning another black man killed by police. 20-year-old Daunte Wright was eulogized by the Reverend Al Sharpton, reprising a role he played at the funeral of George Floyd nearly a year ago.
Peace is the presence of justice. You can't tell us to shut up and suffer. We must speak up when there is an injustice.
He and Floyd family attorney Ben Crump were among the hundreds who turned out for a public viewing.
When you watch that video, your conscience tells you it is the right thing to do to stand up for Daunte Wright.
Wright was stopped for a minor traffic violation in the Minneapolis suburb of Brooklyn Center when police discovered a warrant for his arrest. As officers tried to detain him, Wright moved back into his car. During a brief struggle, Officer Kim Potter could be heard yelling before she shot Wright once with her gun. She's charged with second-degree manslaughter, suggesting prosecutors believe she did not intend to kill Wright, but confused her gun for a taser. Scant comfort to Wright's family.
When he walked in the room, he lit up the room. He was a brother, a jokester. He was loved by so many.
The killing happened just miles from the spot where George Floyd was killed by former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin. He's a convicted murderer now, living in a cell like this one, segregated from other inmates for his own safety at Minnesota's only maximum security prison. He'll be sentenced in June. As for former officer Kim Potter, she will be back in court next month, but remains out on bail. Today, the governor of Minnesota called for a statewide moment of silence during the start of Daunte Wright's funeral, saying that while nothing could bring him back, the work for change must go on. Aaron Katersky, ABC News, New York.
A woman is back in court trying to prove her innocence after being convicted of killing her husband. Jane Dorotic was convicted back in 2001. Her sentence was reversed last year and she was eventually released from prison. Now, Dorotic is back in court with a new team and new arguments. The prosecution's first witness called to testify today was the deputy who found her husband's body.
She said that her husband was missing, and the last time she saw him was about 1:15 p.m.
Dorotic is represented by attorneys from Loyola Law School's Project for the Innocent. They claim she was wrongfully convicted on false blood and DNA evidence originally presented to the jury. The man and woman accused of seriously injuring an El Cajon police officer will go to trial. In December, Officer Nick Cirilio was talking with the couple when the driver took off, dragging the officer for hundreds of yards before he slammed to the ground. David Pagnolini's lawyer says his client was trying to get away but did not try to hurt Cerello. Passenger Kiani Flores' lawyer says she was, quote, literally along for the ride. The judge ordered them to stand trial on multiple felonies.
All right, turning now to our weather for the second day in a row. We are dealing with some cooler temperatures, cloudy skies, drizzle, a little bit of rain out there. Our meteorologist, Angelica Campos, is tracking those conditions and a possible warm up on the way. Angelica.
There's a little bit of everything in the forecast, Steve, so we're just going to have to take it one day at a time. But at least for tonight, we're going to see another chance for light drizzle. As we look outside, you can see how gloomy it is. As that camera moves all around, you can see in Cardiff, cloudy and gloomy. Looking at our pinpoint Doppler live, there's really not a lot of moisture at the moment, but there is going to be a better chance for the clouds to once again be saturated enough for a little bit of drizzle and light rain into tomorrow morning. After tomorrow morning, we'll start to see a warm up. We'll see more sunshine. And coming up in our 7-day forecast, I'll show you how long it's going to last before we're tracking another chance for rain.
Wow. All right, Angelica, thank you. You can keep track of the weather changes in your neighborhood by downloading our free mobile app. Just go to the App Store and search 10 News.
San Diego's Grand Central Station is starting to move forward. It would become the region's primary transportation center, connecting rail and bus lines, other mobility options to the airport. But as ABC 10 News reporter Mimi Alcala explains, this elaborate and expensive plan comes with a local sales tax hike.
The idea of Sandag's proposed Central Mobility Hub is to connect multiple forms of public transportation, like the Amtrak, coaster, trolley, and buses, to other mobility options, amenities, jobs, and housing. It would also provide a direct transit link to the airport, giving San Diegans an option to leave their cars behind.
Where you'll have a hub for people to come, not only ride transit, but also to live there, work there, entertain.
Sandag's executive director Hassan Ikrata says the location is still being discussed, but they're reviewing a couple of options, including the Navy's Old Town campus and a site near the northeastern edge of the airport between I-5 and Pacific Highway. They're also considering an extension of the trolley to the airport as an alternative. Wednesday, Sandag moved forward with starting the environmental review process.
Yesterday, we did a notice of preparation, which is the milestone of saying we're starting the environmental process. We have about a year of environmental technical studies that are done.
But with the project comes a $4 billion price tag. Money Ikrata says doesn't currently exist. Taxpayers would likely have to spend about $1 billion to help fund the project with a 1-cent regional sales tax increase that would possibly be voted on in 2022 or 2024.
For every dollar of local funding, we could get $2.50 of federal and state.
Coronado Mayor Richard Bailey, who's on the Sandag Board of Directors, says people who currently use their cars to get around will likely continue to do so and won't benefit from this project.
And based on all available information I have right now, I just don't think this is a good move for taxpayers or the general public that's looking to get from point A to point B in the quickest, safest, and cheapest way possible.
Mimi Alcala, ABC 10 News.
Sandag has created a public survey asking for feedback from San Diegans. You can find it on our website, 10news.com.